Right, welcome. So today we are continuing our VW Mark 1 Fox build. So today is a big day because we are finally joining the sub-assembly to the gearbox. So over the past few videos, we've completed the sub-assembly, we've completed the gearbox, so now it is time to put it into place into the VW Fox. So I want to say thank you to everyone who has left a like, subscribed, because we are at over 750 subscribers, which is just madness. So thank you all for your support, and yeah, without further ado, let's carry on working on our project Fox. So firstly, we need to put together our clutch assembly. So the first thing to go on is the pressure plates. Now when putting the pressure plates on, just line up the holes, main thing. Secondly, the metal plate that goes along with it. Now this plate goes on before you put bolts, so do not forget to put this metal plates on. Now, once you get the plates on, you can begin putting the bolts into position. So you can just start hand screwing the bolts into position. Then after you're done with that, then you can grab your ratchet and then you can just start tightening them with the ratchet. So after tightening all of the bolts with the ratchet, you can then move on to the torque wrench. So when it comes to torquing the bolts down, take your time, make sure you do go over all of them. You don't want to end up saying, tightened all of them and you haven't, because then you're just gonna run into problems. So make sure you take your time and make sure you use the right torque setting. So torque setting I am gonna leave on screen right now. Once all of your bolts are tightened, well, the next thing to go on is your clutch thrust plate. Now this, you put it into position and you take the metal clip that goes with it. That's also going to slot into position. So just use that, and it only goes in one way. So put it on, put the clip in position, and that is going to be your clutch thrust plate on. From there, what we like to do is clean off the pressure plates. So we're going to take a clean cloth with some petrol and just wipe off for getting rid of any potential grease from just handling of the pressure plates. So clean it off, because you can't be too safe, because you don't want any grease going on there, because if it goes on the clutch, then it's going to be slippage and then it's just going to cause problems. So make sure you have a clean pressure plate. The next thing to go on is the clutch and the flywheel. So at first, you just want to put your finger to hold the clutch and keep it somewhat in center, because it's just going to help. But if not, don't stress, because your clutch kit should come with a lining tool. Yes, this yellow tool that is gonna be picked up right now is gonna just help you to keep the clutch in line. So once you just put the lining tool in place, and then you can start taking the bolts and put them in position around the flywheel. After putting all your bolts in position, you want to take the lining tool and just rotate it. You want to make sure, okay, it spins freely, there isn't any tight spots, because that means the clutch plate isn't properly lined. So after that, you can then begin tightening the bolts. So what you wanted to do here was just pull the bolts in, pull it into place, because this wasn't actually the final bit of tightening you need to do, because you still need to make sure that the lining tool can move freely, and as you can see, it doesn't do that. So with a little bit of pressure, when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit of pressure, because if you use a lot and you are using a screwdriver to move it, well, firstly, you can either move it too much and you're gonna have to readjust it again, or you could possibly damage something. So, a little bit of pressure and just slightly move your clutch plates over. Now, once you finish do that and the lining tool moves freely, well, then you can go in and actually tighten it for real this time. You can properly tighten it. And once you finish tightening your flywheel, that is going to be your clutch assembly in place. So now it's time to move on. So from there we flip the block the correct way and we put the engine mounting on. So the engine mounting consisted of 4 bolts that need to go on. So we put that on and this is currently where we stand. So engine mounting is on, the whole clutch assembly is on, and this is the block now ready to go in. And once again, here is a look at our 2.3 microbus pistons that we put in the block. If you haven't seen the video of me explaining how this is a 1.9 build, it is going to be linked on screen now. So after this, go and watch that video. Now the oil filter housing is what we put on next. Now we put this on before we put the motor into the car because there is going to be a lot less room for us to actually work. Yeah, we are able to actually get under the housing and tighten the Allen keys, because if we had put the block in place, it was just going to be very awkward to work with it. Look, you still will be able to put the housing on with the engine, well, with the block in place. However, it just makes it a lot easier to put it in place now while the block is still out. And all that holds it to the block is 3 Allen key bolts. So tighten those three and then that is going to be your oil housing in place. Now the oil housing itself actually went through a bit of a makeover. So we actually just cleaned it up, use a bit of chemical, cleaned it with a wire brush, and then we resprayed it. Hence why the oil filter housing was looking in such good condition. Well, that's because we actually just went over it with some spray paint, because if it's dirty, if it's not looking the best, spray some paint over it and it'll be looking brand spanking new. So that is exactly what we did with the oil housing, and we also did the same with the metal plate, as you can see. So now it was time to mount the engine into place. So my father is standing inside the engine bay with the engine and he is gonna lift up and I'm on the ground because I need to slide the block into place and just keep it underneath the engine to get it at the correct height for us to put the mounting in. However, as you can see, the camera fell. Yeah, the mount fell and we didn't really pay attention because we were lifting an engine. So now with us getting the block in place, it is time to turn our attention over to Gearbox. So if we look at the gearbox, we can see that there are a few crucial pieces that are still missing from it. So that is what we actually need to put on now. So the first thing that we put on was the rubber boot that goes over the selector, because this boot was torn and just in bad condition that was originally on my box. So we're putting a new boot in. So we put new bolts on, and then we're gonna put the selector arm on. So as you can see, we just cleaned it up. We didn't spray it, we just cleaned it, gave it a little bit of a polish and left it as is. So we also put brand new bushes, and as you can see, the top yellow one is actually wrong, but don't worry, we are gonna change it now. We need to just flip it the other way. So it is a single bolt that needs to be tightened. I think it's a 13 if I'm not mistaken, that needs to get tightened to just hold the selector arm in place. So as I said, we just need to rotate the bush. So we pulled it out using a small screwdriver and turned it around and put it in the opposite end. So just with a little bit of pushing with the help of a small screwdriver, and that gets it into place. So that is now the selector arm where it needs to be. On screen now is the part number for the bush kit that we are using, that we got from Goldwagon. I thought if anyone in the comment section is looking for it, or anyone watching it is looking, yeah, it is. Next to go on was the linkage. Now to tighten the linkage, you're going to need 2 spanners, or you can use a spanner and a ratchet to actually tighten it down, because when I was actually taking it off, I used a spanner and a ratchet, but now you can see with tightening we use 2 spanners. So tighten that, and that was now in place. So the next piece of the puzzle to go on was the mounting. So the mounting, very simple. Your 2 bolts are gonna go through it and you're gonna tighten the nuts at the end of it and just keep them locked in place. Now usually they do come with washers. Unfortunately ours didn't. I honestly don't know how that happened. But the previous owners, somehow they did not put back the washers, so we just have nuts going straight onto the mounting. Now to tighten the mounting, you're going to use a 17 spanner and a 17 socket with a ratchet. Now you can use two 17 spanners, but it's really up to you, whatever you have. But it is 17s that you are going to be tightening. Now, before I forget, in the last video when we were putting the seals in, the small seals that go around the push rod, we actually put a double seal. So I had to mention this. This way, putting a double seal in will actually just prevent any possibility of any oil coming out, and you guarantee no leakages coming from there. So with the gearbox having everything it needs to go into position, it's time to put it into position. But before we do that, we need to put the CV shaft in. So to do that, we actually just gonna run it from the top and just put it through that way. So I do have some footage of us actually assembling the CVs and putting the new boots on, the new CV joints on. So that may be coming up in a that may be in the next video. I'm not 100% sure how on the later videos out, but if you want to see that, let me know in the comment section down below. So the CVs, we ran it from the top and just put it into place. So with the first CV, I actually just put the camera down because I needed to work. I couldn't hold the camera and put the CV in place. So once we actually got it in, we just need to add CV joint grease to it. So as you can see, that's what we're doing to the cups now. We are filling the cups with CV joint grease. Do not be shy. The more the better. Okay, let me not say that, but put a generous amount. Do not be shy when putting grease, when putting CV grease into the CV cups. Now, with both cups being filled to a brim with CV joint grease, I'm just going to show you quickly what grease we used. We actually used this MS grease. It is more of a general purpose grease, but it can also be used for your CV joints. So just like the engine, my father worked from the top and I worked from the bottom. Now when we are lifting up the gearbox. So what you want to do is you just want to take a bolt and try and screw it into position. If it goes in and it takes thread, then you know, okay, you're good. You can put other bolts and just see if they also take thread. Now, if you put the bolts in and it isn't taking thread, you need to adjust the box. You either rotate it and then you should be able to perfectly line it and get thread, and then you can tighten the bolts. So after you screw them in by hand, then you can grab your ratchet and you can tighten them. So from there, now we move back to the CV that we already put into place. So we're just gonna hand tighten the bolts. So give them a few turns, go around all of the bolts, and then once you've completed that, then we're gonna jump on over to using the ratchet. So with one CV in and fully tightened, it's time to move on to the next one. So with this one, as you can see, we just put in the same CV grease that we used on the spline of it, because that's just going to help it slide in easier. So as you can see on the actual hub now, where where the CV is gonna come out. So as you can see, the spline there needs to align with the spline on the CV. If it doesn't align, just slightly rotate the CV and then you should just get it to pop in. So That is what we need to do now and just slot it in. The thing is, you do need to be careful of the CV boot. You don't want to snag it anywhere and possibly rip the CV boot, because then you need to take it out, change the CV boots, and it's just it's just a whole lot of extra time wasted and a whole lot more effort. So just be careful and put it in carefully. Once again, I was on the floor because I was working the jack to actually get the gearbox into place. So my father was on top ready with the ball to put it in once it actually gets into position. So working with the scissors jack is a bit of a time consuming thing, especially when you're using a screwdriver to actually operate the jack. So it took a bit of time, but eventually we got into place. Now I thought I'd just show you the setup that we were working with. As you can see, we have two bricks, we have the scissors jack on top, piece of wood, and that is what we had supporting the gearbox. As you can see, we had a block with two bricks that was sitting underneath the block. So with this being done, this was the gearbox and the engine being in. However, we still need to do the rear mount as well as the front mount. So before we can even really start thinking of moving on to the other mounts, we need to tighten the ones that are already in position. So starting off with the gearbox mounting. So this one, to actually get it tightened properly, I had to go down once again and actually just give the gearbox a slight push and just slightly move it over.
Leave it. Leave it now. Leave it.
Yeah. 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 Well, it's sliding.
We then moved on to the engine side mounting, and this one we didn't have to do any real adjustments, just tightened, pull the bolts in a bit more, and we were good to go. Now for the back mount, you can see there are two bolts on screen. Now those attach to the gearbox, and that's what holds the mount to the gearbox, as well as it's connected to another bracket at the bottom that now connects to the actual body of the car. At the bottom now there are two nuts that need to be put on to just secure and keep the mounting in place. Once the nuts are on, you're gonna grab your trusty ratchet and you're gonna just tighten it. Now tighten it to a point where don't over tighten it now, because then you're gonna run into issues. So just tighten it, keep it tight. I just need to finalize torque settings, because as you can see, we are tightening a large majority of the bolts on the car, but we still need to go back and do the actual torque settings for majority of these bolts. Now what I am planning on doing, I'm gonna take these videos and I'm gonna separate and show the content that I also cut out and make them individual videos. For example, installing wheel bearings, how to install or how to change the clutch, just like how-to videos. So that is what I'm planning to do with the channel too. I'm gonna add these how-to videos, but not now. I don't want to get too much of a distraction, but soon enough I will begin, or when I have time to edit, well, that's what's gonna come to the channel. We're gonna be breaking these videos down and giving you a thorough how-to on how to fix or just work on your VW Mark 1. So in order to get the front mounting in, you have to put the starter in as well. So the starter is now in position, and so is the front mounting. So the next step is to get the balls in and just start tightening. Now the reason that the starter and the mounting have to go in at the same time is because they share the same balls. Yes, the ball that you thread through, yes, because the bottom starter balls actually threads through the mounting. So in order to get your starter in, you have to have the mounting in. In order to keep the mounting in place, you need the balls. And to get the balls in, you gotta put the starter. It's all just linked, hence why the starter and the front mounting have to go in together. Now for the bottom balls, you're only gonna use a ratchet. That is all you need. However, for the top balls, you're gonna need a spanner as well as a ratchet to tighten the top nut and balls. So afterwards, we're just gonna tighten the main bolts that are holding the whole gearbox to the block. Now looking at those bolts and how they look compared to a gearbox, I'm thinking of painting those bolts. And there are actually quite a few bolts that are just dotted around like the gearbox and things that I need to paint because the way they look against the silver, it's killing my OCD. However, I can see it. I can see myself leaving it because I mean that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to look. Now, what we need to do, we're just gonna put the earth onto the mountain there. Hence why we actually sanded the black off the mountain because we need good connection. Hence why you gotta take the paint off. Otherwise, if there's paint on and you still try to connect it, well, you're gonna have some problems. Hence why we are also sanding down the contact. We're gonna sand down the lug because we want good ground. Now we went ahead and did this with all of the contact points, with all of the lugs to just make sure, okay, we have a good contact surface. What are your thoughts on wire tucking? Now, for me, I think it looks amazing. It can completely transform an engine bay. However, it's not for a daily vehicle, in my opinion, unless you have very high trust that nothing's gonna go wrong. But with old cars, wire tucking is something that can look incredible. However, I don't know if I'm willing to run the risk of actually wire tucking. But I know people who have. I've seen people run into issues. Hence why tucking I'm a bit on the fence about. But also I just want to see if anyone's still watching at this point. So let me know in the comments what are your thoughts on wire tucking your engine bay. So now time to just wire up the starter. So now, next thing we did was fill the gearbox oil. Now we found out that the max capacity for the O2O gearbox is 2 liters. So that is what we put in. And with us filling up the gearbox oil, this is where I'm gonna wrap this video up. So next week, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what we're gonna put out. I'm thinking about doing the videos on the CVs. I'm thinking about doing a video on the head. I'm so uncertain at this current point in time. Just make sure you do leave a like and subscribe because you know guaranteed every Sunday there is going to be an upload. So if you guys do going to enjoy this video, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.